evening. I'm Laura Lee.
And I'm Dan Wolf. Thanks for joining us. In the last hour, the court adjourned day one of the trial of a Superior man accused of killing and dismembering another man.
37-year-old Jacob Johnson is charged with second-degree murder in the death of Richard Balsamo back in 2021. Balsamo's remains were eventually found in Lake Superior near Grand Portage.
Northern News Now's Ryan Half is live outside the courthouse for us tonight. Ryan, where does the trial stand right now?
Hi, Dan and Laura. Yeah, it's been a super long day. Our very own Natalie Hepner spent 8:30 this morning all the way to about 5:15 this afternoon just for that jury selection. The prosecution and the defense are trying to find those 12 people to fit in this case. And Johnson, who we're talking about, is the third to stand trial. If you'll remember, Richard Balsamo's dismembered body was found in Lake Superior near Grand Portage 2 years ago this month. Investigators say Balsamo was shot and killed in the Twin Cities, mutilated at a property in Douglas County, and then disposed of up the North Shore. According to that criminal complaint, Johnson and Balsamo drove down to the Twin Cities together with two other people in that car. Court documents describe Balsamo threatening the group with a knife. That's when Johnson shot him multiple times. Johnson then enlisted the help of two friends to take Balsamo's body to an RV in Douglas County, dismember it, and put it in large buckets. That's when one of those friends eventually dumped those buckets up in the lake near Grand Portage. As for the two other people involved in this crime, Robert West from South Range was found guilty in February on felony counts of interference with the dead body, as well as aiding an offender. Meanwhile, Tommy Hintz of Duluth was convicted last year after pleading guilty to aiding an offender as well. As we just said today in the courtroom, the judge, prosecution, and defense worked hard to select a jury, a process that will have to continue tomorrow. 17 jurors have been asked as a group to report back, 7 men and 10 women. That questioning will continue tomorrow morning. As for the trial itself, Natalie has said it should last about 4 weeks. As for Johnson, he could be facing a maximum of 20 years in prison. Dan, Laura, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much again, Ryan Half, live for us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.